Productions on the track.
In the tall grass. Wish I had a pilot and a podcast. Wish I had a strong donkey that can haul ass and travel with portable speakers playing bars.
Hey, what's going
Wish
on,
I had
everybody?
$1 million. I wish I had $1 million.
Welcome to the DeBRIef After Party.
Wish I had $1 million problems.
With
That
my
way I
man
couldn't
Dave.
pinpoint all one
We got
million
Sly in the
outcomes.
building.
I wish I found a genie lamp. I wish
Yeah.
them girls gave me.
I need like a lower the volume down kind of situation, but
You know what?
I do not have that.
Let her pick the song. We gotta ask her.
We'll say that again.
I always wonder what made her pick this song.
So I heard her say that she had a friend that her brother, the friend's brother's this guy, right? And she said she would go along with the song because she's sure that the person singing it will not copyright her or sue her or anything like that. So from what I understand. So anyway, what's up, everybody? This is Case Study QB, and we got the superstars of the call-in show, the DeBRIef, which is Day and Sly, so also Sylvester, who I love. Whenever I listen to the DeBRIef, I love hearing their commentary. And also, we're going to be, hopefully we get other people as well. But these are my personal favorite people to listen to so far. So say what's up to the people, Day.
What up? What up? How are y'all? Hope everyone is having a great night. I forgot you can't actually respond to me verbally, so I hope everyone's having a great night.
Yeah, Sly.
I'm gonna take Dave's cue and just y'all can't respond to me verbally, but hey, I hope everybody doing good. Waiting and interested to begin this convo with y'all.
Yeah. All right, cool. So I lined up about 6 clips that we're gonna go over, and we're gonna go right into it. And then after the 6 clips, we're going to talk about the election today. Today was the big election. John Fetterman won, and then Summer Lee lost. I like to call it, she got Nina Turnered, which is unfortunate because she was up by 30 points at one point, and then Big Money came in last minute and totally squashed that. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about my idea for mutual aid married with electoral politics. And we're going to kind of brainstorm. We want to brainstorm with Day and Sylvester, and also with people in the chat. This is what this platform is for. And that's one thing I love about calling, is that you could go back and forth. And as you're going to see from us going on some of these clips, we're going to see that Bree also was giving some strategy on how to talk to the right. That's one of the clips that we're going to go into. So let's get this thing started. Give me one moment. Let me get this thing started here. All right, we're going to start off with this first clip.
What is the evidence? I'm not mad at you. I'm not arguing with you. I'm just asking you to tell us what the evidence is, because, you know, some earlier guests and Danny are saying that there isn't concrete evidence of these concentration camps existing and this actually happening.
I'm not going to argue with Holocaust deniers. I'm just not going to do it. Like, I just
Holocaust
think
deniers.
Okay, but Matt,
ridiculous.
you know, but
sorry,
Matt.
with all due respect, hang on a second.
Okay.
All due respect, Danny doesn't know what he's talking about. Danny's just,
All right.
and I can just tell. Like,
Matt.
But wait a minute. No, Matt. The easiest way for you to do this.
Look, I disagree with you a lot, Matt, but I never said you didn't know what you were talking about.
Okay,
But I know
Matt,
you don't know what you're talking about in China.
Matt and
but-
Danny.
Don't
Don't make me force mute. I'm going to start force muting people in a second. So let me say this. Norm Finkelstein, whose parents were Holocaust survivors, came on this show, and he is not anybody. He doesn't represent the Jews or anything. But his personal position is that to fight misinformation and all this shit that's going on in the world, he thinks that people should be actually willing to fight Holocaust deniers, because we live in a world where people don't know how to argue against them because they're never forced to, because that kind of a conversation is basically scrubbed from the internet. Now, people can feel how they want to feel about Norm Finkelstein, and I highly suggest you go back and listen to that episode because it was bomb and he's terrific.
I think I could pause it at that point. Let me know if you want me to continue it, but I like to call this clip Danny versus Matt Stoller. And man, they were going at it. And basically, to give some context on what was going down, was basically Danny believes that the Uyghur, there's the statement out there that's in the public about the Uyghurs being suppressed or there's a genocide from China. And Danny's more in the defense of that, while Matt Stoller is saying that this genocide is actually happening. So that's where the contention comes in. So with that said, you guys want to say anything in regards to this clip?
Yeah, so I remember this is where I came in when I was listening, and it sounded like the use of the word genocide was stopping people from having the conversation that should have been had. And I think there is an argument that could be made that colloquially, genocide, when people hear genocide, they think mass murder, slaughter, etc. And Matt was arguing that there's a lot of steps prior to the murder, which include erasure of the culture and doing other things from a more, I guess, macro level before getting to the atrocity of murder. And because they haven't gotten to that point, I think the use of his word, maybe some would argue prematurely, made people miss the message. And there might have been a better way to connect the dots to say that if this is the first step, in the Nazi camps, they did this, and they did this, and they did this, and it led to genocide. I think had he been able to weave a thread instead of assuming people could make the leap, we could have spent more time on what the topic was instead of debating the use of that word specifically.
Yeah, totally agree. Sly?
Yeah, and I think that Matt, I think he was saying that he was trying to be provocative on purpose too. So that also could have like stopped people from getting to that point. But I like what you brought up, Day. So there's certain trigger words that you use that it's like, even it don't matter where you lead them, you could be leading them to exactly what they're looking for, but then you hit them with that trigger word, everything turns off, the defense mode. And I know, personally, I'm someone where sometimes I think like we throw around the Nazi thing. This is me personally. I think we throw around the Nazi thing very loosely nowadays. What we want to describe as genocide, and like you said, there's parts like leading up to that, but it, like you said, it causes people to miss where you're trying to. You can't even get people to that point of that conversation that you want to have because the words that you're using are so triggering that people's defenses go up, and it's not people don't think it's an equivalent. So yeah, Case.
Yeah. So Matt Stoller. I've listened to this guy often. He goes on Jimmy Dore's show every so often and on various mediums, and I think he's a very smart, very substantive person, right?
Absolutely.
But not everybody can have their own show or be able to have an audience. So what I like about him is he goes on a Brianna Joy Gray's show. He goes on Jimmy Dore to get that audience out, and I think that's what's needed. We have the media person with the charisma, like Brianna, and then you have her bring on people that's, even though she's very substantive herself, very smart, but she brings on the experts, and that's where he comes in. But he seems to be like socially awkward to me in the sense of not being able to convey what he wants to say in a positive way, as we saw. Like, this is counterproductive, the way he's getting at Danny. Like, let's have a productive conversation, as we are going to see from this next clip. This is the last clip in regards to this conversation.
Can I say something real quick about that?
Sure, go ahead.
I think, because I think Matt, when it comes to monopoly power and antitrust, et cetera, he's top tier. And I think I've watched a lot of his content for Breaking Points, and I think that Matt works best in a monologue or written format. And sometimes when you are in a dialogue, I admire him that he's able to go into it and just be in the belly of the beast. But I think some people, they need to kind of take a step back and take some emotion out and be able to think it through and actually hear and listen and go back and forth. And I think sometimes that might be a skill that in the moment back and forth is a skill that maybe could be enhanced, because I felt like, I don't know if, he could disagree with Danny, that's fine. But I don't think when he was talking to Bree, I think he was really unmovable on the fact that, hey, everybody agrees with you. We're just saying maybe this isn't the most effective word. But he was so stuck in I don't say self-righteousness of using it, but I mean that was that it felt like his being right was more important than the message.
You're going to see from this next clip exactly what we're talking about. But let me give a shout out to the chat. So we got Cynthia Cook. I wonder if that's the same Cynthia that's on the show. But much love to you, Cynthia. We got PJ Holly, who's usually on my Political Junkies show. Much love to you. All for Nothing also is in the building. Much love to you guys, to everyone. Yeah, so let me bring this back up. Boom. Let me play this.
And I also think that it's really clear that China has a ton of money out there spending on people to get them to say that this stuff doesn't happen. And I don't think that we should treat people who believe there is no genocide with respect. I don't think it's a respectable position. I think it's abhorrent, and I'm not going to be shy about that. And I don't think that we should be treating people who are spreading these kinds of ideas with any sort of respect. I don't think it's respectful. I think the respectful thing to do is to take the problem of genocide seriously, and I just don't see that happening.
We are all here, Matt, because we want to take the problem seriously, but unfortunately for you, potentially, in the context of this podcast, we are going to all treat each other here respectfully as a condition of having a productive discourse, and I think that we can all manage that.
I'm not okay with civility in the face of somebody who's going to say that there's no genocide and sort of say, oh, well, I don't remember the Jews being all, hostile and, it's totally different than that's a really offensive thing to say. It's offensive to the memory of what happened during World War II. It's also offensive to to the idea of human rights itself. And I take that really seriously, and I'm not going to be shy about that. And I'm not going to be polite about it. And I don't think people should be shy or polite about it just because it's scary not to be.
Well,
sorry, go ahead, David.
Yeah, sorry. What I was going to say is I actually agree with you quite.
Okay, I think we're good there with that clip. Yeah. So, I mean, my personal opinion about this whole situation is I have to be honest. I'm probably in the same bucket as Bree, where I don't have all the information on if this genocide is happening. Like, I'm waiting to see some evidence. I'm waiting to see more information. Like, I'm open to anything happen. If anybody says this is going on, I like to see pictures, but I know how totalitarian China is, so that makes it hard. But I'm in that boat where it's like, hey, I just need, give me more information. Just don't tell me, hey, this is going on, boom, and that's it, which is what Matt is doing. And then you have Danny who's saying, no, it's not, boom, that's it. Like, I need more information. That's how you guys feel about that.
Well,
go ahead, Sly.
So because again, I'm one of the people that I need more information on as well too. Yeah. So is he saying that people are, and I know, like, I don't know the exact definition of genocide, whether you're doing like a body count number or et cetera, but is he saying that the Chinese are killing the Uyghurs or just locking them up?
Yeah, I think he's trying to say that they're not only doing that. They're trying to like change their culture as well. Almost like what
cleansing? Yeah,
almost like what we recently came out that there were Indian boarding schools historically in America back in like from the 1871 to like up to 1960 something, that Debbie Haaland, who's the Secretary of Interior, she came out with this report because of course she's Indian herself, that the American government was literally doing a genocide of these Indian Navajo and different tribes, and like changing their culture, like taking away their language, taking away their, so that's that next level of genocide, not only killing them, but like the people that surviving, wiping out their culture from, what I'm saying? So I think that's what they're trying to say over in China as well.
Okay.
But you can tell from basically the point of this clip is, Matt, we need you to have a different approach. I mean, God bless if you want to continue to, we're not trying to tell you what to do, but to be effective, You have to be able communicating is a skill. You know, I'm not the best I try to be the best communicator, but I can tell when there's bad communication going on.
Because
So
most people
go ahead,
get
Dave.
turned off. I was like, the thing is, I respect the passion and the moral, indignation, if that's the right word. Like that makes sense. But the problem is, this is not an issue where most people at least have a general understanding, like slavery or women's suffrage or different things like that. So
the Holocaust, we know what happened in the Holocaust. Yeah.
Abortion, any hot topic issue where people at least have some grasp of the facts. You are literally asking people to come into it. And the problem is because there's so much condescension almost, at least at how it's coming across. Even though you might have been speaking to Danny, a lay person that's listening, you sound almost erratic. So it's kind of like you have to take the normal person with you that assume we know nothing, then take us by the steps and actually, yes, dismantle some of what Danny is saying without making it, you don't have to pussyfoot around it or cave on facts. But I think when it turns into just this, we're not getting anything from it as a listener.
Yeah, 100%. It's counterproductive. All right, let's move on to the next clip. Bring this back up. Boom. And this clip is called Dumb Liberals. That's what
You cannot, the problem is there is some dumb Connecticut liberal somewhere who truly is saying white kids are born evil and we have to get them to repent. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say aren't people like that over places. And the problem is, I'm sorry. I said this in more dulcet tones, but I'm a little irritated tonight. So here's what's happening. Who they think they're doing the right thing, but they're dumb and they literally don't understand what racism is themselves. So they bungle the entire message and they walk around saying things that are too aggressive by 80%. And all it takes for there to be 5, 10, 15, 50, 100, 200 of these morons across the country. The right will find them. If you read the New York Times article, it talks about how Tucker Carlson and his team, they comb through all of these campus newspapers every day. They search for instances of people acting out and being crazy. Or getting a fact wrong. Oh, I thought there was a hate crime because someone put a banana in my locker, but it turns out it was just a banana in my locker and not someone calling me a monkey. Okay, they take the time when someone was wrong about something and they blow it up on the national stage. Now, I'm not saying this is necessarily constructive in what the left or liberals should be doing, but, these people out here, right-wingers are out here doing some absolute bananas stuff. And that was the point of me playing that tampon clip. It's any random clip sounds completely unhinged. You've got Congress members with laser eyes in their Twitter bios, and we're talking about someone's pronoun in their bio. Ma'am, you have laser eyes.
I think you did with Robbie when you asked him hey, so if someone's
got it. We got the picture from there.
What are laser eyes? I meant to look that up.
I've seen that recently. I don't know what this trend is, but what's up, Sly?
It's for crypto.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm not familiar.
And you know how Bree feels about crypto, so
yes.
I do know how Bree feels.
That's where damn, you have laser eyes.
But hey, I have to agree with her. We have a few people, and that goes into this other conversation. Now I'm thinking about progressive. The word progressive. I watch, Case Study QBI clip. I watch a lot of Fox News, and I see how they just dogging the term progressive. They associate every bad thing that I don't associate with progressivism. They are associating progressivism. They're calling the Biden administration a progressive administration. He's doing everything that Bernie Sanders wants. So in this example where they're talking about liberal and Bree is talking about how the right finds all these nuanced CRT, what was the other example? All these little examples of these random on the super fringes issues that I would call myself a progressive, but now I'm starting to call myself a leftist because that the word progressive is going away. That I don't relate to those things, and they're just amplifying it so that now when Sly goes to run for office next term and he knocks on doors and calls himself a progressive, they're gonna be like, oh, you're one of those progressives that like to, that I associate with CRT and all these fringe ideas. And I'm like, no, I'm a progressive that I want Medicare for all. I want to legalize marijuana. I want to, all the good things, forgive student loan debt. That's the progressivism that I want to promote. Go ahead, Dave.
They killed that though. Killed progressive.
Or Sly, go ahead, Sly.
No, go ahead, Dave, but they killed progressive.
No, like let me think. How do I wanted to say this. So I agree that when it comes to messaging and impact, nobody does it like the right. Like the right is so effective. The right is so wrong while being effective. It's amazing. And I think what frustrates me is because I agree with Bree. There is this turmoil or dilemma of, do I address the culture stuff? Because if I don't, then they get to win on it. But I think what people have to realize is that as leftists, I think Jonathan Haidt talks about this a lot, that, the right as an ecosystem has a lot of moral things that they tug on that's really relatable. Like if you are conservative, by default, you are trying to maintain a system. You are not trying to change it. And I think leftists have to realize that some in some of the more extreme issues, we are asking people to reimagine something that they thought was one way for a very long time. Like when you think about economics, it doesn't have to be like culture stuff like CRT or trans issues, etc. Just think about economics. Most people think that the federal government providing Medicare for all means, oh my gosh, my taxes have to go up. How are we going to pay for it? When in actuality, looking through a modern monetary theory lens, we know that the federal government does not work the same way as a household or the state government, meaning that the government can fund anything that they would like to. It doesn't mean you just freely print money. It means that we are solely limited by the material resources that we have. For example, doctors, hospitals, nurses, etc. If we don't have enough of them, yes, a Medicare for all system could have a lot of issues. But because most people aren't aware of that, the right knows how to trigger, well, your taxes are going to go up, and this, how are you going to afford this? Socialized medicine, all these trigger words that we don't have a response for on the left, because on our left media infrastructure is not a left infrastructure. It's a liberal infrastructure who, if we're being honest, are only liberal on cultural issues, and they're actually Republicans on financial issues. Because essentially, the average liberal person on MSNBC, CNN, etc., really should be what the Republican Party is at this point. But because they keep shifting to the right, the Republican Party, not saying the people, but the party, have to keep cha-cha sliding further and further into the right as well. And now everyone's looking around like, this can't be real life.
Yeah, definitely. Before I go to a slide, I just want to give a shout out to some more people in the chat. Miguel H came in the chat. PJ Chris is in the chat, and Cynthia did say that's the Cynthia from the show that she's usually, Yeah. So what's I said, hey, we got to bring her on next time.
Yes.
And then I know Where Pilgrim is in the chat. All right, Sly, take it away. And then I got a clip. Actually, I'm gonna prove what we're talking about right after Sly talks. Go ahead, Sly.
Yeah, I'm actually personally, I'm getting to the place where I wonder if we even need the labels, and if the labels do us more harm than good, because at the end of the day, in my eyes, it's upper versus lower in terms of class, like the ones who got the money and the ones who don't have the money. And then they let us, like, you think about what happened in Buffalo, where you have this 18-year-old kid, right? 18-year-old kid that he thinks that the people with no power are such an issue, and he's, in fear, whatever replacement theory going on, that he's going to go against them instead of the people who actually do have power, and the fact that, again, the way that the right is so wrong that they're right, and they, radicalize so many people, and like they were saying, they're really good with strategy. You can't deny that. But when we get into all the labels of you left or you right, that already kind of divides people who, like, ultimately, if we want to challenge on the upper and the lower level in terms of class, we're going to need to organize with people on the right, same as on the left. So we really in the same pot. versus it being like a left or right thing. So like when it comes to the labels, I feel like the labels are an easy way to shut down a conversation or immediately put you on another side, where like at the end of the day, if we don't start, organizing together across whatever ideological lines that we have, then we just gonna keep on fighting each other.
100%. So I'm gonna show this Fox News clip, and then I'm gonna go to Day. Sly?
Okay.
You said something, Sly? Okay, you good. All right, cool. Let's do it. All right, here it is.
And, I was thinking about this, Dagan. We have the Democratic Party is now in the hands of the progressives, and we have a progressive government in the Biden administration. It turns out the progressive government is a contradiction in terms, right? I mean, these are the people who are in favor of government running everything. But now that they're in power, they seem to be incompetent to run anything at all. We have the examples we've just been talking about, as well as every big city in America is run by a progressive mayor, and we know what is happening to our cities right now. The progressives don't know how to run anything other than a nonprofit group or a community organizer operation.
They do.
There you go, Day. We see the evidence right there.
So I had something else I want to say, but I'm going to address that really quickly while it's in my spirit.
Go ahead.
They really embody the spiritual principle of speaking it into existence, because they are trying to make fetch a thing. I promise you, saying progressive, blah, 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 progressive, blah, 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 progressive it's amazing how much propaganda it is. So it's like, oh my gosh, they want to get, I don't know if you remember the clip on Fox where it's like, they want you to work 4 days a week, but still get paid the same. Ugh, those progressives.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting here like, first and foremost,
yes, that's what I want.
It's like, yes, you've never met a real person. But then more importantly, it's like progress in and of itself isn't a bad word, but y'all are using it and attaching it to just anything. And I listen to like the Biden administration is progressive. No one ever challenges them to say, what do you mean by that word? Tell me, give me an example. You'll just say, we see how it's being run with these mayors. No, we don't. Show me. But the problem is nobody is there to push back. This actually pisses me off, because Biden being progressive is arguably one of the greatest comedy bits that Netflix has not picked up yet, because no one in the history of everdom has ever thought, oh my God, Biden's progressive. The one time that I could say Joseph R. Biden was progressive was when he got us out the war, but then kowtowed to everybody and decided to put those bad sanctions and all the crap we're doing to those people still over there. And then when he actually came out in support of gay marriage, that's the only time in his 50, 60, 100 years career in the Senate, presidency, and everywhere else that I could argue he was progressive. Please stop. It's actually disrespectful to the people who actually embody progressive values. Because again, when I talk to my friends on the right, they are always mind blown by the conversations that I have, because what they think is progressivism is so far from what actual leftism is. And I think this is how I know Democrats are pathetic. I'm sorry, I'm having a moment today. I'm channeling DeBRIef. Because
tell them how you really feel.
You can't even get like good slogans together. Like, how did you let the Republicans start naming you the radical left? Radical right is alliteration. It was the most effective thing you could have ever said. The radical right, the radical right. No, you surrender that over and let them call us the radical left, which actually sounds whack and literally doesn't make any sense. So it's just like, the only people you can fight are the people in your party. They do not know how to fight the Republicans. And you know why? Because they don't actually disagree with them the way that they pretend to. Like the fact that you let Summer leave, which we're going to get to, the fact that you let her campaign get flooded and overrun, and so that another status quo person could win when you claim to care about Black women, support Black women, blah, 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 but you went and put up that Ken doll white man. I don't want to hear it. Like at this point, like the only thing that Candace Owen has ever probably said correct out her mouth besides her first and last name is the fact that we cannot assume that because we should not have to judge our political decisions based on our color, because what we know as Black people generally is all skin folk and kinfolk. And all people in the kente cloth are not skin folk. Like, I really need us to stop allowing this to happen. Sorry, rant over. Ugh.
Preach. Did you have something else? You had something else to say, or you were good? Or were you good? Okay. No, Dave, I thought you had something else, but it's all right. Sly, go ahead.
I can't watch Fox News because of this. I think you do the Lord's work.
Yeah. Sly, you have anything else? And then otherwise, we're gonna go to the next one.
You know, and I think part of the problem, and Day touched on it earlier, was that it's not really like a right versus left thing. It's more like right versus liberal, but then the liberals put the left in as the punching bag because they know they suck and they know they're really aligned with more of the Republican thinking, but they'll put us in front. So they take all the shots and get beat up and say, hey, listen, we're the common sense people on this side. So you should come over to us. And, you know, then it's just just a circle, just a cycle of using us as a punching bag. And because we don't have that left media infrastructure that you're talking about, we can't actually get on the offensive to the mainstream on what our positions are. And then basically where it gets shown at is in these liberal spaces where they don't really believe in it. And the people who are paying them don't want to see these policies passed because they understand what that's going to mean for millions of people. So they let us get beat up, and then it's all by design. They're working in cohort with each other.
Yes,
100%
because the left.
If
the left coordinated with the populist right, we would be in a whole different predicament. They don't want that.
Yep. Let's go to the next clip.
You know,
I call this one
these weird
FCRT.
diversity programs in HR places. CRT, like as a tradition, is kind of skeptical of that kind of stuff.
I know, Brent, but look, you're already losing. We all agree here on that, but also nobody gives a shit. Like, I gotta say, this is the entire problem. We cannot be getting into some conversation. I don't want to talk about CRT. Fuck it. I'm over it. I want to talk about the dumb shit they're doing. Because I'm tired of being on the back foot. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. I want to talk about the fact that an avowed white supremacist just killed 10 black people in Buffalo, New York. That's what I want to talk about.
But it doesn't stick to them for some reason.
No. I'll tell you what doesn't stick is having another year or 2 or 5 of a conversation about CRT. We're already pussyfooting around. All of us on this call are here knowing that we will get dragged as leftists if we even for a second try to pin on Tucker Carlson any responsibility for this. And I'm frankly not even going to do it. I'm not even interested in that because that does seem like low-hanging fruit for someone to come and attack me because there are all these other instances of people claiming they were inspired by X, Y, and Z person, some of whom I like. But what I am not going to back away from is the idea that this man who had a literal white supremacist manifesto and said he based his behavior on other white supremacists and talked explicitly about replacement theory and explicitly went and sought out a black neighborhood and a black grocery store and shot black people with "Here's your reparations" written on his gun. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like that's not white supremacy, and every monkey ass fool that gets on the TV from here into eternity who tries to downplay the existence of white supremacy doesn't have to confront that fact. Tucker Carlson aside, who cares about Tucker Carlson?
I'll say one last thing, and sorry because I took some sort of time. I apologize to the other call.
I think that's pretty much it right there. But she's definitely spit some fire right there. Yeah, Sly, what you think about that clip?
I mean, that's part of the problem is that we always playing defense, because when we playing defense, then we let's say the right get to hold that narrative where they'll talk about CRT, because talking about the issues that led that brother to do what he did in Buffalo isn't something that they want to touch on. And she's also right when she says that, hey, listen, if we try to point easily at Tucker's a stand-in. I think I heard somebody saying that Tucker could be anybody. There was Rush Limbaugh before there was Tucker. He could be anybody just spewing that hate on that network. And I did hear someone say that it's not that there's something inherently special about him, but then he's very well funded and has that big megaphone to be able to get that message out there. But then the real thing, and Dr. King said it, was that poverty, ignorance, social isolation, economic deprivation are going to breed violence wherever it's found. And when you look at that manifesto, that young brother right there was isolated, and he was learning all of this stuff that he was learning, getting radicalized in these different chat rooms. 4chan, I believe 4chan was on there as well. So you get into those holes, and I think that's part of why, again, I try to get away from left and right, and where we got to all come together, even though we're not going to agree on everything, but come together where we can on different things, because when we start isolating, that's when people really get into these deep, dark spaces, and stuff like this comes. And like the different, programs and of social uplift that Day was talking about, that again, real left platform values, the things that we actually believe in, that would go a long way in curing and preventing a lot of the issues that end up arising at the end. But you know what's going to happen? What's going to happen instead is that this issue happens. There's going to be people on the liberal space and on the right space that's going to say, we need to fund the police more. Even though the state of New York, I think they spend over $11 billion on policing already, but it didn't prevent that from happening. But they're going to also use that as a catalyst to get more funding for the police and deprive communities of the type of resources that are going to give people a connection to each other and uplift them and really prevent these issues from happening. Because when people have their needs met, when they feel connected to the community, they don't seek out harming other people. But this is just another byproduct of capitalism.
100%, Dave.
Okay. To me, this is just a classic reason why we have to start speaking in class terms. We already understand why we don't do that, but I say it for this reason. When you always filter everything through an identity lens of Black this, Black people this, what you do is your overuse of the word makes it less effective, because it's like the boy who cried wolf. So this is actually an instance where identity politics of white supremacy, racism, etc., is actually applicable. But because it's something that you make everything, it glosses over the people who it actually needs to hit. And so I feel like this is an example. Listen, Democrats, the last time I heard Democrats talk about poor white people, I could not tell you. Whether you like it or not,
that part.
Poor white people have more in common with at large, the Black community and other POCs, underprivileged communities like transgender, Latino, etc., than they do with the rest of the Republican Party. But because the Republican Party is at least willing to play on the tropes that they know are effective, if no one is speaking to their economic needs and somebody's speaking to their cultural, they're going to lean on the cultural. And the Democrats lost the moment they decided to only focus on Black people. Listen, Black people recognize that if you helping them poor white people and the policy is not written in a racist way, like some of the other stuff of, past that, because we already know some of the New Deal, etc., we gonna win. Like the best bit, if we get a $15 minimum wage, you don't have to say, oh, women or this or help women. Just tell them a $15 minimum wage is amazing. Because guess what? Black people gonna get a $15 minimum wage. Women don't get it. Transgender people, legalizing sex work. You don't have to say it's for transgender women, but they'll be one of the biggest benefactors. So it's like you can't see the forest for the trees, and then you leave this huge room open for Republicans to come in rhetorically, take said group, demonize them, put them against the people, and say, "See, look what they're trying to take from you." And they
100%. Unfortunately, one of the things that they hit Bernie with was that very thing that you said. We recognize what you just said, where $15 an hour, mainly that helps Black women, raising the minimum wage. But and I think Bree would concur that during the election, they would say that Black people, Bernie's not good for Black people because he didn't have those targeted like reparations and all this stuff, even though his broad policy would help Black people. But we could talk about this for another half an hour. We're coming down to at least 20 minutes left in the show, and I have 2 more clips, but I'm gonna skip one because there's one clip that where Bree talks about everybody is racist. That was an interesting clip, but I'm gonna have to skip it. And then I really want to talk about this strategy, Bree talking strategy about how to talk to the right, and then we'll talk about my electoral idea.
God bless you. I hear you. I hear that, but like I can't get into. You're saying so many things that I have once upon a time said myself. Well, I'm going to be honest with you though. I don't think we should be saying things anymore. Like,
why?
If you're going to talk about this country, of course, was built on anti-Black slavery. I don't think that is not a phrase that I would let out of my mouth talking to any of these people. I would be specific as hell. I would say that the largest concentration of millionaires in America used to be in not just Mississippi, because of how much slavery, how much of the American economy was based on slavery. I would cite specifically this amount of the American economy was based on slavery. I would cite specifically, like, you're not wrong. You're obviously not wrong. But the point I'm trying to make is there was a maximalist, Andrew, I'm sorry, come on, you gotta let me get this out. There is a maximalist version of this argument that I think people have been making in a way, in part because they don't know the specifics, feeling like we're all in our silos and everyone agrees with each other, makes us live for many, many years without ever being challenged on any of the specifics. Meanwhile, the Charlie Kirks of the world are out there like memorizing the Federalist Papers. And we find ourselves in these situations where we cannot make the argument in a specific way that responds to the specificity of the counter arguments that are coming our way. I agree with you to a certain point. I think that people should go on Tucker Carlson, and if he says, put him in a position where he is made to respond to whether or not he thinks racism is real. And if he answers no, he looks insane. If he answers yes, especially in the context of a shooting like with the one we just saw, if he answers yes, the follow-up question is, can you describe for me what you think racism is? Can you describe to me some examples of how racism is manifesting today? Because for whether better or worse, or whether or not I did so successfully with Charlie Kirk, at one point very early in the debate, he was like, well, yes, of course that's racism and it's structural. I'm like, okay, so then you just admitted there's structural racism, so what are we debating here? Well, because they're never asked to answer the question themselves. And so I think there's an enormous amount of value in going on the affirmative.
Interesting. Oh, hold on 1 second. I just lost my clip. Okay, boom. All right. Yeah. So that's Bree giving her advice on how to respond to the right, which I think is very interesting breakdown, and she's the communication expert. So I go right along with that. What you think, Sly?
I mean, sometimes it's hard to even have a conversation when we get on there because you said everything already. I mean, because me personally, like, I've gotten to the point where I'm tired of saying certain things just because, and again, I keep doing. I'm putting Day and Bree in the same category because I can go back to something Day said earlier. But then, are you more concerned with reaching people or being right? Because you can, you can be right and say, that this land was built, on racism and white supremacy and everything like that. But do you want to be effective, or do you just want to, make yourself feel good because you know things? And that's something that the liberals do a lot. Sometimes you're too smart. I think Matt might have been a little bit too smart when he was talking, where it's like, okay, like, we get it that you know things, but then how do you want to connect that information to people? How do you want to get people on board with the message that you're putting out there, so that they picking up what you're putting down? But we got to get out the books sometimes, and we got to get out of just being on defense. And I like how she said in terms of just like, okay, put Tucker in a position where, like, either he's going to agree with what you're saying or he's going to look crazy, versus just trying to deflect everything he's going to try to send your way.
Yeah, 100 a day.
I agree 100%. I think we don't put people in positions to defend their foolishness. And what happens is they're allowed to use buzzwords that it's amorphous. Like, people just assume whatever thing they want to ascribe to critical race theory, that's what they're going to do. But if you actually and I want to be very specific, these political leaders and thought leaders, like, I want to see the Charlie Kirks, I want to see the Tucker Carlsons, the Candace Owens, etc., the Ben Shapiros, forced to have civil debate where they can actually admit out their mouth what they believe these things are. But what I need in equal power are leftists or people who actually have enough specificity to know how to dismantle each point effectively. What they have to be prepared for, though, is the fact that one of the right's most effective tactics when they can't actually defend their mess, and when they know that they're outbeat, is they will talk, super talk, speed talk over you, and continue to spew out the same talking points, because there's no critical thinking behind why they hate the things that they hate beyond the fact that fear is an effective tactic. But if you actually address the fear, like, case in point, 9 times out of 10, if they bring up, well, the trans people, blah, 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 guess what? I'm going to look at them and be like, you know what? transgender issues is is its own conversation, but right now that sounds like a deflection from the fact that I'm telling you that most people go medically bankrupt from the fact that they don't have good health insurance. So talking about transgender people having health insurance is irrelevant to the conversation because they don't even have access to it right now. Like, you have to be able to bob and weave these people, and you can only do that when you have a strong grasp on the information. And I think, like, I watched Candace Owens. There was like an old clip of Candace Owens and Crystal Ball going at it, and I was so fascinated. And I'll paraphrasing, Candace came on that show on the Old Rising to talk about her program she did with like 100, bringing like 400 Black conservative leaders, cool, whatever. And so then Crystal asks her, how do you feel about Trump not having any Black people in the administration, essentially, I guess maybe besides Ben Carson? And Candace flips it on her and says, wow, how antagonizing for you to ask me why, because I'm Black, you think you need to ask me about that. See, this is what these racist white liberals, I'm paraphrasing. And in my head, I'm sitting here like, I wish that Crystal didn't let it go, like she didn't back down, but I wish she had just literally caught her. So, ma'am, you came here on this show to discuss a program where you're bringing Black people here. So please let me know how my question is insulting, irrelevant, or racist to then ask you about the representation of Black people now in the administration. But because Candace couldn't defend that, what she do? She backpedaled and coochie popped by talking over Crystal, calling her racist, saying all these crazy things. Because because they're not actually involved in good faith dialogue. They're only in it to win. They are hyenas out in there trying to fight. They don't care about the middle ground. And that's where it gets really challenging.
So
and why we have to be as leftists out in those spaces.
They had in bad faith.
Yes.
Yeah. So, all right. So we got about 12 minutes that we're going to get into strategizing. And I saw, matter of fact, I just want to start off because I saw Cynthia had a comment from earlier. She said, let me bring it up. Yes, so many questions. Do we go third party, continue to try to elect progressives, push Dems, leave electoral politics altogether, and focus on a direct action, community organizing? So this was a comment that she put, and this is what we're going to discuss right now. So basically, I had an idea. I talked to a couple call-in shows, Sabby Sabs. I talked to Ryan Knight from Proud Socialists and the Vanguard. And basically, I'm developing this idea, right? And I'd love to know from Sly, especially as somebody who has ran for a period of time in the past. And the idea is, and basically I came up with this idea because I'm not going to give up on electoral politics just yet. I'm the type of person I just want to keep hammering away. Like, okay, what went wrong last time? Okay, how can we fix it this time? And how can we change or have a different strategy? That's the type of person I am. So getting introduced to Revolutionary Blackout Network and how they're so involved with mutual aid, and they've introduced me to mutual aid, I was thinking, okay, what if you had a candidate who would instruct his volunteers or their volunteers to go out knocking on doors, and you create an organization called, for example, the Sylvester Mutual Aid Organization, and the volunteers go around in the neighborhood to the constituents, knocking on doors and say, hi, I'm with Sly. Sly Anu. How you pronounce your last name, Sly? If you don't mind. Annie's. Thank you. Sly Annie's Mutual Aid. Huh?
Said you out here making it fancy like Black people do it.
Sly Annie's Mutual Aid, right? And they're knocking on doors. And instead of saying, hi, I want you to vote for Sly, I want you to volunteer, I want you to give money to Sly's campaign, you say, hey, I'm with Sly Annie's Mutual Aid. How can I help you? What do you need help right now? Do you need your lawn mowed? Or you're an old elderly person that you need to have your couch that's been old and you've been meaning to get it out of your house and put it at the curb, and you don't have anybody to help you out with that? We're going to write down what you might need right now. And what we might not be able to help you with everything, but we're going to try to help you out as much as we can. And then also tell me, what can you do for your neighbor? Is there anything? Are you a lawyer? Or are you a handyman, a plumber? That can we put you down on this list that, we don't expect you to give all your time, but if you can donate some of your time to helping out a neighbor in your area, we would like to create this organization of community, of bringing people together. So the whole point of this, and using the name Sly Annie, is to create name recognition, because we know in politics one of the biggest hardest things to have is name recognition, and traditionally you would raise money, get TV ads, and that's how you get name recognition on radio ads, etc. But progressives, we have to think differently. We're not going to win by the same game, going about the same establishment ways and raising money. Of course, we want volunteers, and yes, you're going to need to raise money to a certain extent, but because we're progressives, and especially the way the progressive community has been disenfranchised, we feel really let down. It's harder and harder to raise money. But the beauty of this idea is that even if you lose, what have you done? You've created an organization that is helping people, and then you could potentially pass that on. If Sly doesn't want to run again, let's say he says, hey, it wasn't for me. Now you could pass it on to Day, who's in the same district, and say, you know what, I want to run next time. Okay, now we change the name to Day's Mutual Aid. Boom. And now you're going to start creating, you have a list, an email list, a text list, list of people that you knocked on doors that you could pass on to the next person. Okay, I've talked enough. Go ahead and tell me what you guys think so far.
I love it. I think I've messaged you privately about it. Like, I don't know who to attribute the quote to, but they say people forget what you say, but they never forget how you made them feel. And I think altruistically, at the end of the day, you're doing great work. And I think what it can foster is a way for people to talk to each other again. Like, it's harder to hate someone that you actually know. And I think by creating where, hey, a bartering system of sorts, you are forcing people to engage with people who, yes, will have different ideas and different thoughts and ideology than they do. But now they know somebody. So like, you can't use the scary, the leftist or socialist, blah, blah, blah. It's not as scary anymore when it's your person. And I look forward to the day that we can do this and then see that it works. Because it's not just about winning. That's important, but actually creating communities that look like communities.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of it. It's not, you're not knocking on doors saying, hey, are you a Democrat or a Republican? Oh, you're a Republican? Oh, no, I'm not going to help you. Exactly. You're helping everybody, whether you're a Republican, Independent, Democrat, you're helping everybody. And I believe you might be able, even if you shave off 5% of the Republicans that will vote for you, they say, hey, you know what? I don't believe in all the politics, because that happens to Bernie all the time. They have a whole bunch of people in Vermont that consider themselves Republican, that they say, you know what? I don't really necessarily go with his politics, but I know he's for me because of what he's doing. And the mutual aid, they're going to have that great feelings toward that you helped them through that organization. Go ahead, Sly.
Yeah, no, I mean, I obviously, like, yeah, I love the idea. I think that, someone said there's not an idea that hasn't been thought of under the sun. And when I think about what you're talking about, I think about what the Panthers were doing, because they ran candidates. Huey ran for Congress. And then when you look at the mutual aid that they had the Breakfast Club program, they had the health clinics. So they were marrying that electoral work with the mutual aid organizing, because they just understood how much attention that space took. And then also, again, that's where those decisions were being made, were in those rooms. So like when, they had, imperialist stances. So like if there's a hearing on something going on in Ukraine, or hell, Biden just put troops into Somalia recently. If you had someone that was elected and got in, that was doing that type of mutual aid organizing, you could have someone in that building that's heightening the contradictions for everybody and connecting the dots. So, but then ultimately, and this is just, it's my personal opinion, I see a Roman era type of collapse happening with the United States right now. Economically, how we're, starting to implode, like within, we're not, China is, in terms of GDP, they're trending up. And right now it's like we're having a tantrum because we see a shift that's happening on the global stage. But no empire lasts number one forever. That's just history. That's just the fact of the matter. And I think back to Tupac. Tupac had this one video where he's talking about how everybody is. Like right now, it's like we're knocking on the door, right? And there's a whole bunch of food behind this door, and we all know it. And at first, it's just like, you know, we are hungry, please let us eat. We are hungry, please let us eat. You know, and then you know, no one's answering the door, but you know the food's back there, so you start banging a little louder, like we are hungry, please let us eat. We are hungry, please let us eat. And then no one's still opening it. Then you know, it gets to the point where I'm kicking the door, I'm walking through blasting, and that's the point that I see us ultimately heading towards, just because I don't see us getting out of out of our own ways. And like ultimately, like I see us getting to a point where, like, you know, people aren't going to wait to vote our way out of it, and they're going to take power into their own hands. I'm not saying this is something that's going to happen overnight, but I just see like us trending in that direction. But until we get to that point, I 100% support the idea of pairing electoral politics with that mutual aid organizing, so that, just like Dave said, we can build something that looks like a community.
Yeah. So there's going to be a lot of layers. And by the way, thanks for that song. We got, man, I know they can sing, Sly can sing. We got to get a trio going. I can't sing actually, so I'll play the piano with you guys. But anyway,
there you go.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers that is going to come with this idea, and it's definitely in development, because I need to find out how can we get the independent media involved in this somehow. Whether it's as they're knocking on doors, maybe we're handing out a pamphlet with all the different independent media on this pamphlet: Status Quo, TYT, Black Revolutionary Blackout Network, Breaking Points, Brianna Joy Gray, all the different independent media that we need to get them to be popular. We need them to have 2 million subscribers, 10 million subscribers, so that they can compete with mainstream media.
Breaking Points is doing pretty well. I saw
they're doing well, but we need more. We need to keep it going, right? And then also, so I have the People's Gauntlet, and anybody can go to peoplesgauntlet.com, and that, I think that's an excellent way to find candidates and to either educate them on the policy that the progressives care about, or to find out where they stand on the policies that progressives care about. But then there's another kind of layer. We have to find out how much leadership skills a candidate has. So what I mean by that, Kyle Kalinske said that when they created Justice Democrats, they asked for the policies and they made sure that they were good on the policies, Medicare for all, etc. But one thing that they didn't really look out for was leadership skills. So that skill to be able to buck the system, that leadership, that inner ability to be able to fight and say, you know what, even though I'm in the system and the Democrats are doing all the mind tricks and the media's, they want me to be afraid that they're going to call me far left or whatever, I'm still going to do what I have to do. I'm going to leave the Progressive Caucus when they don't endorse Nina Turner, and I'm going to start our own caucus. Like, that's something that I don't know just yet how we're going to do it, but that's something that we have to look out for when we do put people in these positions of, you know, giving them the name mutual aid, because that's going to be a big responsibility, and that's a lot of faith that the people are going to put in this person. And a lot, we see it right now. You know, we donated, I think the first time Nina ran, up to $6 million. You know, people put their blood, sweat, and tears into a campaign, and then for them to get in and not do exactly what we know is needed to get the progressive message out, that's hurtful. But I believe, and there's going to be more. We're going to continue to discuss this. We're going to continue to have these open forums, and trust me, something is going to happen within hopefully the next year or two. Hopefully by the next cycle. I don't think anything's going to happen this cycle, but hopefully for the next cycle. And what time is it? It's 10:30. Sly left already. I think he probably left by accident or something. But yeah. I'm gonna let Day go ahead and say your last words, and then we're gonna call it a wrap.
Yeah, I'm just always grateful to have these conversations with you. And I want to make one thing clear, explicit, that I might have made implicit, and that's when we talk about the right or Republicans, we are actually talking about the elected leadership, because I genuinely believe that many of the people who consider themselves conservatives would agree that they don't feel like their values are reflected in their elected leaders, and do have more in common with us when it comes to healthcare and good jobs, etc. So I always want people to know that this is a space where we can have a variety of ideas, but let's find the things we have in common. Let's 100%. Fix that first.
100%, my man. Dave, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you
And
for having me.
put this on as a boom.
I wish this well had water in it. These kids are stealing
As
all
we
my
head out of here,
focused on my
that'll
wealth.
go him a little
Can help
bit
you wish, but not
because I
the
want to
federal
shout out
government's like,
to everybody. What Declaration was here, PJ Hollyhorn, Cynthia Cook was on here, Gamer for Life was in the building, PJ Holly. Who else we got? Will Pilgrim was in the building. All for Nothing was in the building. Thank you, every Joy to the World was in the building. Thank you to everybody. Miguel H. Thank you so much. Dave, my man Dave, thank you so much. Can't wait to do this again with you. Fly, I don't know where you went, but thank you for coming on the show. Much love to you and see y'all next time. Have a great one. Peace.
I wish I spoke fluent Spanish. Dímelo, dímelo.